How's everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and today we're going to be reacting, or not necessarily reacting because this isn't a reaction channel with a face cam, but we're going to be looking back at the 2011 NFL Draft. I know it's a weird time to talk about the draft. Not really, though. I mean, the Senior Bowl just happened this Saturday, and shout out to NFL Throwback, their YouTube channel, of course, that is verified by the NFL. They post all sorts of throwback games and draft videos, and I stumbled upon one. It's been out for a while. I've actually already seen it, but they were basically showing footage from the 2011 NFL Draft and all the craziness that went down there. It's being regarded as like one of the best drafts in NFL history, and I 100% agree. This might be the best draft of my lifetime. I know 2014 gets a lot of praise for that as well, but I'd argue this one was better. But we're going to be recapping the first round of that draft, basically talking about some things that happened in between a few of these picks, because there was definitely some movement within the draft and whatnot. Talk about the crazy controversy that happened at pick 26. I mean, there's just a lot to touch on, and I'm very excited to do this video. But before we get started, I do want to say rest in peace to a true legend, Kobe Bryant. He recently passed away, dying in a helicopter crash with his daughter and a whole another family, including a legendary baseball coach and one of Gianna's teammates, Gianna Bryant being the daughter of Kobe. Just rest in peace. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and let's go ahead and move on. I just wanted to get that out of the way because I'm going to be honest, the more I talk about it, the more emotional I get. So let's just go ahead and move into the 2011 NFL Draft. So, of course, this draft featured the likes of Cam Newton, Von Miller, Julio Jones, J.J. Watt, Patrick Peterson. There are so many names in the first round, and that doesn't even take into account guys drafted in the second and third round. Guys like Rodney Hudson, Justin Houston. This draft class was simply amazing. There's nothing more I could say about it, but let's just go ahead, in terms of the amazing status of it, but let's go ahead and get started. So, of course, with the number one overall pick, the Carolina Panthers took Auburn quarterback Cam Newton, the best quarterback prospect in this draft class, man. A Heisman winner, a national champion. How could you go wrong with him? You know what I mean? Cam Newton was such a raw athlete. The only concern that scouts really had about him at that time was if he could be a good precision passer at the next level. Can he, be a pinpoint accurate passer throughout his career? Because he had all the physical tools. He was an amazing athlete, just a competitor, student of the game type of guy. But the main question was his precision passing. And if you look at his career completion percentage, I mean, it's not the greatest. As a matter of fact, he's only had 2 seasons, I believe, where he's over 60% completion percentage. But definitely Cam Newton, I would say, was a home run pick. He won the MVP in 2015. He went to a Super Bowl, and even though he's more known for the infamous not diving for the loose ball in the Super Bowl, and basically known for this mysterious injury that he's had, Cam Newton has definitely been a great player in his short time. Is he the best player from this draft? No, but definitely at the time worthy of the number one pick. So let's go ahead and go to the number 2 overall pick, and that is Von Miller, who went to school at Texas A&M. A great player. Von Miller has been arguably one of the best pass rushers of today's NFL. Von Miller just has it all. I mean, he's very good against the run. I'd say he's great against the run. A pure power rusher, has developed a good finesse move, a good swim move, a good rip throughout his NFL career, but he is just a sack getter. Von Miller has been the model of consistency. Just when we think, oh, he might be falling off, he's not quite the same player that he used to be, well, he just continues to put up great bodies of work. And even if he's not getting the pressure at the rate as he was in 2014 and 2015, he's definitely been the model of consistency, and he has been one of the best players in this draft class, period, regardless of position. Von Miller, definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. think it's pretty safe to say he's been the model of consistency. He's broken a good bit of records along the way. He just has a great body of work. It's hard not to acknowledge it. Von Miller's a hell of a player. Now we move to number 3 overall. Looking back at it, it is an underwhelming pick, but a pretty good one for Buffalo. At number 3 overall, the Buffalo Bills did draft Alabama nose tackle Marcell Dareus, or Marcell Dareus, however you want to pronounce it. Some people pronounce it differently, Darius. But Marcell Dareus, defensive tackle out of Alabama. He's been a pretty solid player throughout his career, especially early on. He was very good. But, you know, he started to slip a little bit, ended up getting cut, I believe, by the Buffalo Bills. Can't remember how that ended exactly. Then he goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's had a solid career with Jacksonville so far. Nothing too crazy, but he's been a solid player, and the longevity is definitely there. A pretty good run defender, has some upside as a pass rusher. And at Alabama, really wasn't really many questions with him. He was just a big freak specimen who showed upside as a pass rusher, being a 330-plus pounder. And he's been a good player. Has he been Von Miller great? No. Has he been J.J. Watt great? No. But he's been a pretty solid player. I'm sure if the Buffalo Bills had to do it again, they'd go in a different direction, but pretty solid pick right here from Buffalo. I don't think you can complain too much, but this draft class is really stacked. I mean, Marcell Dareus is not a bad player at all. Then we get to number 4 overall. The Cincinnati Bengals drafted wide receiver A.J. Green out of UGA. Go Dogs. I tell you what, man, A.J. Green has kind of been an underappreciated wide receiver throughout his career. I wouldn't say he's underrated, because there was a time where A.J. Green was like a top 5 receiver in the league. But he's kind of been underappreciated, you know, just looking at his body of work, looking at, you know, what he's done. And the fact that he hasn't played this year, it's kind of made people forget how good he really is. It's kind of like what's going on in the NBA with, like, John Wall. John Wall is a great player, but we kind of forget how good he is because he hasn't played in such a long time. But, you know, if you look at A.J. Green, he's been a great receiver throughout his entire career. Didn't really have the production in 2018 because he missed like most of the year, and then he didn't play at all this year. But in 2020, if he does stick around with the Cincinnati Bengals, which it sounds like he will, they'll probably franchise tag him or something. You know, if they do draft Joe Burrow at number 1 overall, you're going to be helping him out a ton because he has a great receiver to throw the football to. A.J. Green has definitely had a great career. He was a part of a loaded draft class, like we've said. And we got a ton of names to go, so let's just go ahead and kind of speed through it, or try to speed through it. But at number 5, the Arizona Cardinals took LSU cornerback Patrick Peterson. DBU, here we go. Patrick Peterson, just a do-it-all defensive back, and he has been pretty consistent throughout his career. Consistently great. Even this year, you know, coming out after the suspension, or coming out to play, not like coming out. Y'all know what I mean. But after the suspension, you know, Patrick Peterson, for a few games there, it looked like he hadn't missed a beat. He didn't have the greatest end to this past year, but he has been one of the very few consistent defensive backs, along with like Richard Sherman as well. It's actually been incredible to see how good he's been. Not to mention he does return punts as well. I mean, he's just a do-it-all defensive back. He can, you know, go take on the number 1 receiver. He can play good in zone coverage. He can lurk for interceptions. The only wide receiver that's really given him trouble is the guy who is selected next, and that's Julio Jones at number 6 to the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons didn't actually have the 6th overall pick. Now, did they? They actually had the 21st overall pick. But let's talk about a little trade that changed the franchise. So Cleveland traded the number 6th overall pick with the Atlanta Falcons. So the Falcons had to give up the following: its 1st round pick, 2nd round pick, and 4th round pick this year, along with a 1st round pick next year and a 4th round pick in 2012. So they gave up a pretty steep price to get Julio Jones, but looking back at it, it is 100% worth it. There's an argument to be made that Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the modern era, I'm not going to disagree with it. I mean, Julio, again, similar to like Patrick Peterson and Von Miller, he has been the model of consistency. Nobody out there at the wide receiver position has been doing it as long as Julio and playing at a consistent level. And that includes Larry Legend, Larry Fitzgerald, who he's still a great receiver, but he's not what he used to be. You know what I'm saying? Like Julio, I mean, is basically playing the same as he did when he came in. He may not be, you know, as explosive, but he's still very explosive, and he's still very, very good. Let's not get that twisted. Julio is arguably, like I said, one of the greatest wide receivers of this generation, and he's been the model of consistency. He's broken a lot of records as well, passing Calvin Johnson for like the fastest to get X amount of yards. Can't remember how many it was. Maybe 10,000, but I mean, just a crazy career it's been for Julio. Almost won a Super Bowl as well, but Julio Jones, an amazing pick. I'm sure the Falcons, if he were there at number 6 overall, would get him in a heartbeat again. And then we get to number 7 overall. This is actually kind of a depressing story. The San Francisco 49ers select Aldon Smith, the edge rusher out of Missouri. Aldon Smith, let me tell you about Aldon Smith. If you don't know who Aldon Smith is, or you don't remember the name, or remember much of his game, he is a great football player. Let me just say that. But off the field stuff, it just kind of got in the way. You know what I mean? Like, the off the field stuff is what really hindered this man's career, and probably his work ethic as well. But just looking at Aldon Smith, the talent that Aldon Smith was, he was a very, very good player. There's a reason scouts believe that he could be the number 1 prospect at the edge rusher position, not just Von Miller. When you have scouts like that, I mean, that just goes to speak how good people think you really are, because Von Miller is going to be a Hall of Famer, and there were scouts out there that had Aldon Smith above this guy. But watching this guy play in San Francisco before all the off-the-field demons started to catch up with him, he was a beast. He was arguably unstoppable, and a huge reason why the San Francisco 49ers went on those great runs with Colin Kaepernick and Jim Harbaugh, you know, in the postseason. He played just as much of a role as those two men did in being a great pass rusher and being a disruptor and being able to finish, just attacking the football, attacking the quarterback. He was truly a special talent, but off the field stuff really hindered his chances of being great. He had a second opportunity with the Oakland Raiders, but he just couldn't stay out of trouble. So, you know, while he was fighting those demons, at the end of the day, just a wasted career, man. Like, he really could have been a special player, and he was definitely on track to do some special things there. Aldon Smith, that's a tough one. Then we get to number 8 overall, the Tennessee Titans. What are you doing? You took a 2nd to 4th round graded quarterback, according to Mike Mayock. You took Jake Locker from Washington. And I remember when they made this pick, and 11-year-old me or 10-year-old me was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, back then, I was watching a lot of college football. You know, obviously, like, I know who Cam Newton was. You know, everybody knew who the hell Cam Newton was. And, you know, I knew who Julio was. I basically knew a lot of the SEC players because, you know, I'm a Georgia fan. I watched that conference. I do watch a little bit of Washington here or there, but I didn't even remember Jake Locker. I was like, who the hell is this guy? And Jake Locker, I mean, his career was pretty quick. I think he played like 2 seasons, and then he retired. He really wasn't that good of a quarterback when he played. He had a couple of good games, but he just wasn't a good quarterback when he played. The pick didn't make sense then. It doesn't make sense now. And in a class filled with Pro Bowlers and potential first ballot Hall of Famers, oh, man, that's tough. I mean, obviously, 2020 hindsight, you don't make that pick, but I still don't know what went through Tennessee's mind when they made the pick. Now we get to number 9 overall. The Dallas Cowboys selected tackle Tyron Smith. I don't know why. I can't remember where he went to school. It wasn't Notre Dame. I'm trying to remember where he went to school because Zach Martin went to Notre Dame. Oh, yeah, Tyron Smith, USC. That's where he went to school. He was the left tackle, or the right tackle for the USC Trojans. He has transitioned to left tackle in the NFL. He did start out early at right tackle in the place of Doug Free. If you Cowboys fans remember who Doug Free is, he was one of the better tackles for the Dallas Cowboys. So Tyron Smith comes in here. He has been a rock at that left tackle position. He has had some injuries here or there, a little back issue here or there, whatever, but he has been a pretty consistent tackle, always among some of the top tackles in the league. I don't consider him to be the best tackle, but he has been very consistent throughout his tenure in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys, and he's just a stud. As simple as that. But now we get to number 10 overall. Oh boy. The Jacksonville Jaguars select Blaine Gabbert, quarterback out of Missouri. Blaine Gabbert, yeah, that didn't work out so well, did it? Blaine Gabbert's been around the league. He's recently not been in the league. Or is he? Wait a minute, hold on. I think he's the backup in Tampa Bay now. But, man, I mean, he's just had a tough career. Drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 10. A lot of people did like Blaine Gabbert. I don't really have an opinion on Blaine Gabbert. The first time I've seen him play, in the pros, I didn't know much about him. Even though he was a SEC guy, I just, I didn't really see what people liked about him. And, he just really wasn't that good of a quarterback at the next level. I mean, he had a good college career, which is why he got drafted at number 10, but he just really didn't turn it up in the pros, did he? He's bounced around on a few different teams, including like the San Francisco 49ers, the Tennessee Titans, Tampa Bay Bucks. It's just been a weird career for him. Really didn't translate at the next level. Just an example why college production can be overrated, because, pretty productive at Missouri didn't really cut it in the NFL. Now we get to number 11 overall, J.J. Watt, the defensive lineman from Wisconsin, home of those badges. But anyway, I mean, J.J. Watt has been a hell of a player. And fun fact, I actually own a J.J. Watt jersey. Yeah, the only non-Packer jersey that I have that I actually wear. So, yeah, there's that. My family from Minnesota, sent me Vikings jerseys back in the day. They just collect dust. I don't wear them. But they're two players that I respect, Jared Allen and Adrian Peterson. So, I ain't really got a problem with that, but I'm not putting them on ever. Screw the Vikings, man. And my friend Zach, he's a Vikings fan. I'm pretty sure if he had a Packer jersey, I'm sure he would not wear it. So, no hard feelings. Anyway, J.J. Watt's one of those players whose jersey I actually own. I love J.J. Watt. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. Truth be told, I know I have a bunch of favorites. I have a bunch of my guys, but seriously, he's one of them. I'm a huge fan of J.J. Watt. And, just looking at what he's done throughout his career, I mean, he's won, 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. He's been a Walter Payton Man of the Year. He's just been a tremendous player throughout his career. Injuries have started to hurt him, though, man, recently in his career. I mean, I hope he doesn't have to retire. He's a great player. I hope he gives it another run. I'm sure he will. The competitor in him will want that to happen. He's just a heck of a ball player. Seriously, I mean, nobody plays as hard as J.J. Watt. The work ethic's there. And, just powerful. Uses that inside leverage to his advantage. He's just been a hell of a pass rusher, man. A hell of a player. Just a true competitor. J.J. Watt right there at number 11. Then we get to number 12, Christian Ponder. At 12 overall, selected by the Minnesota Vikings. What? I mean, at the time, they were looking at quarterback. I mean, I can't really rip on it too bad, but after Cam Newton, this was a pretty weak quarterback class. I mean, you had Andy Dalton, so I guess, one of the teams that selected a quarterback could have had Andy Dalton. He went in like the early second. I don't know who else went in this class that was a quarterback. Is there any other notable guys that I'm forgetting? Probably, but we're not going to focus on that right now. But yeah, Christian Ponder, number 12 overall. I can't believe it. And he didn't work out. Shocker. Scouts were kind of iffy on him. Christian Ponder, man, just wow, he phased out pretty quickly, didn't he? But the Vikings, I'm sure that's one they wish they could have back. Just tough at the time. I can't remember who was their quarterback at the time before they got Ponder. Like, I know Brett Favre officially retired like the year before. Was it Tavares Jackson? Was that their quarterback? I can't even remember. But yeah, Christian Ponder, boo. Detroit at number 13 overall, they drafted Nick Fairley, the defensive tackle from Auburn. His biggest question was really his work ethic, but he was a great athlete. Didn't really have all that great of a career, but a pretty solid player for Detroit and at the time the St. Louis Rams. But after that, I mean, he really kind of just fell off. Didn't really hear from him, but he's been like a solid player. Nothing too special at 13, but like I said, some good players. We're going to get to them later. Right now, actually. At number 14 overall, the St. Louis Rams selected Robert Quinn. And if you guys don't remember Robert Quinn early on in his career, boy, you missed out. There was a time, I think, where Robert Quinn led the NFL in sacks. Could be wrong. But Robert Quinn was a beast early on in his career, straight up. But as the later years went on, you know, he just kind of turned into a solid player. I think he ended up being cut or traded to the Dolphins. He was okay there. Then he played with Dallas this past season. He was pretty solid for Dallas, not gonna lie. I think he's an impending free agent this year. We'll see if Dallas is able to bring him back. If not, I'm sure he'll add some pass rush for sure, you know, somewhere else. But Robert Quinn, pretty solid career overall. Early on was a beast. I mean, straight up. Then at 15 overall, Mike Pouncey, the guard slash center out of Florida, ends up getting drafted. Mike Pouncey, pretty consistent career, pretty solid career for the Miami Dolphins. I'm pretty sure he signed with the Chargers not too long ago. I think last year. But we'll see what Mike Pouncey does in the future. Pretty solid center, pretty consistent guy overall. And then at number 16 overall, we get Ryan Kerrigan. Talk about consistent. This past season didn't really have all that great of a year, but he's been a pretty consistent player, kind of an underrated player. And I don't use the term underrated a whole lot anymore, but he's truly an underrated player. I don't know. I think he's on a one-year deal. Like, he's got 1 year left on his contract. So we'll see how his run in Washington ends. We'll see if he gets cut, if he gets to pick his destination. Should be interesting. But Ryan Kerrigan's had a pretty damn good career. So shout out to him. At number 17 overall, the New England Patriots selected Nate Soldier, the tackle out of Colorado. He had a great career with the New England Patriots. Kind of a staple, a consistent left tackle for them. Then he signed a massive contract with the New York Giants. Hasn't quite been the same player. If anything, like, it could be a cut casualty or a cap casualty like later down the line. But pretty good career with the Patriots. Not so much with the Giants, but you could do worse than Nate Soldier at tackle. At pick 18 overall, the San Diego Chargers, now LA Chargers, selected Corey Liuget at defensive tackle. Now, Corey Liuget, you know, pretty strong start, but recently just kind of fallen off a little bit. Like, after his final year with the Chargers, you know, he was kind of just chilling on the market. Then the Raiders pick him up, and he plays a little bit solid for them. Nothing too crazy, but Corey Liuget, just a decent career, you know, a pretty solid player, but nothing too special. At 19 overall, the New York Giants selected Prince Amukamara, the defensive back out of Nebraska, I'm pretty sure. Prince Amukamara has been a pretty solid corner throughout his career. Good tenure there with the New York Giants. He's been pretty good for the Chicago Bears as well. A good number 2 option next to Kyle Fuller, the I think West Virginia corner. But yeah, Prince Amukamara's had a pretty solid career himself as a corner. The consistency thing, we talk about it over and over. I think he played for the. Did he play for the Jacksonville Jaguars before the Bears? He might have, yeah. pretty good career for him. At number 20, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected Adrian Claiborne. Of course, Adrian Claiborne had that one game for the Falcons where he had like 6 sacks against Chaz Green, who's probably the worst offensive lineman I've ever seen. Just kidding, but you know, like Adrian Claiborne didn't really work out in Tampa Bay. With the Falcons, he's been a pretty consistent player, nothing too crazy, but he's been solid for sure. And then I think he had like a little run with the Patriots, and then he went back to the Falcons this past season. Pretty solid player. I mean, there's nothing really more you could say. It's kind of like the Nick Fairley pick. Like, he could have been a better player, but just ended up being solid. And then we get to pick 21. The Cleveland Browns selected nose tackle Phil Taylor, who didn't really have that long of a career. I think the last team he played for was like the Denver Broncos. Just kind of a dud, pick. I mean, I don't know if I want to call him a bust, but pretty underwhelming. I'll say that much. Cleveland's used to making those kinds of picks. At number 22, the Indianapolis Colts selected Anthony Costanzo from the, I don't even know what school he went to, Stanford, I think. But he's going to be a free agent in real life this year. He's been a pretty consistent left tackle for the Indianapolis Colts. Good pick, for them, obviously. He's been a pretty consistent tackle. Has he been as good as Tyron Smith, who we talked about at number 9 overall? No, but he's been pretty good. I mean, we could say that, but he's been pretty good. Been playing a lot better recently because of having a better line around him, including like Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, and Braden Smith. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on right here. 23, the Philadelphia Eagles took Danny Watkins, the guard out of, I don't even know what school he went to. I'm sorry, it's a habit. Some of these guys, I genuinely don't know what school they went to. I think he went to Oregon. But Danny Watkins, I mean, he really didn't have a good career, to be honest. I mean, the Eagles, they got to be kicking themselves in the foot because the next player that went off the board to the New Orleans Saints was Cameron Jordan. I mean, Cameron Jordan is a beast. Simple as that. Just an amazing player. Kind of an underappreciated player. Recently, people have, really kind of, been able to respect him a little bit more, give him that recognition. But Cameron Jordan's really a hell of a player. Just, one of those guys who just continues to get better and better. And we'll see what the future holds for him over the next few years as a New Orleans Saint. We'll see where his team will be and all that. But Cameron Jordan, a heck of a player. I thought he would be the defensive player of the year. In my eyes, as the season started, that was my prediction. I think the mid-season point as well. It's crazy. I mean, he could have been, but it's been an interesting year in the NFL. Didn't quite work out that way. At number 25, the Seattle Seahawks took tackle/guard James Carpenter. I know for sure he played at Alabama. Decent. Kind of decent. He's been tossed around recently, but he's just been okay. Kind of more of an underwhelming pick than anything else. I think now he's on the Falcons as like a backup guard. He did play for the Jets for a little bit, but kind of an underwhelming career. I mean, that's all we could really say. A lot of those Alabama guys, I mean, when you produce as many athletes as Alabama does to the NFL, a lot of them are going to be hit or miss. James Carpenter just happened to be a miss. Simple as that. Here's some controversy right here. So the team that originally had the 26th overall pick was the Baltimore Ravens, okay? The Ravens tried to trade down from this pick. That's at least what had been reported. They tried to trade down from this pick. Instead, time ran out. Okay, they tried to trade down, I believe, and then they made calls to the appropriate people, but nothing really went through. So the Kansas City Chiefs, who picked at 27, ended up getting the 26th overall pick. So basically, until it got resolved, and everything was transactioned correctly, Baltimore was just going to slide, and the Chiefs ended up selecting Jonathan Baldwin, a wide receiver. Not really a good pick, and it looks like it worked out for the Baltimore Ravens based on who they got, but Jonathan Baldwin, I mean, I think he played for the 49ers as well. Just not a good pick at all. Just really wasn't that good. The Ravens, though, basically, I guess, traded down a spot in theory, but they got everything worked out. They were granted their first-round pick back, and at 27, they selected Colorado defensive back Jimmy Smith, and he's going to be a free agent this year. You know, had a solid career for the Ravens. Really turned it up over the last 3 or 4 years. This past year, he was injured, but when he was out there, he looked pretty good. But Jimmy Smith, solid player throughout his career, pretty good. And then at pick 28 overall, I can't remember who had the 28th pick originally, but the Saints ended up trading back into the first round. I think it might have been with... I'm trying to remember. Why can I not remember? I think it might have been with New England. I think they had the 28th overall pick as well. And anyway, so the Saints trade back into the first round to select a running back, Mark Ingram. And Mark Ingram has been another one of those underappreciated backs. I think this year really started to get more respect around the league. But he's been pretty damn good his entire career, hasn't he? Another one of those Alabama players who ended up being a hit. And Mark Ingram has been really good. And last year, I'm pretty sure people were just saying this to troll. Maybe some people were dead ass, but a lot of people were saying Mark Ingram was a product of Sean Payton's system when he signed with the Baltimore Ravens, and he's not going to be that good. You know, for whatever it's worth, he made the Pro Bowl, had a great season among running backs. He was like a top 10 back in football this year, and you know, he looked pretty damn good with the Baltimore Ravens, and he just turned 30 as well, and he says he has no plans of slowing down. We'll see. But Mark Ingram has been a hell of a player, and it's interesting because him and Jimmy Smith were teammates, and they were back-to-back first-round picks to different teams. Right here at number 29, the Chicago Bears drafted tackle/guard Gabe Karimi. Yeah, I've never heard of this guy. Probably a bust. Never heard of him. At pick 30, the New York Jets selected Muhammad Wilkerson, a defensive lineman from Temple. I'm pretty sure that's the school he went to. Muhammad Wilkerson's had a solid career, really hot start with the New York Jets. Pretty much had a consistent career with the Jets. Started slowly falling off, though. Then he signed with the Green Bay Packers. That lasted like 2.5 games. And Muhammad Wilkerson hasn't played football since, and it's kind of depressing, kind of sad, because he actually is a solid player. Like, if you need a cheaper option as a run defender, Muhammad Wilkerson's your guy, but, you know, he didn't play football last year. We'll see if he gets a call this year. He should. He's a good player. Green Bay, I wish you'd hit up the phone and get him. But right after that, at pick 31, those damn Pittsburgh Steelers, they seem to know what they're doing, you know, around draft time. They seem to know how to scout talent, but at 31 overall, they go with Cameron Hayward, the defensive end. Just been a great player his whole career. Has he been J.J. Watt great? No. Has he been Cameron Jordan great? I'd probably say no, but Cameron Hayward's been a hell of a player, seriously. You know, Pro Bowler, all that. He's been a great player, great 3-4 defensive lineman for this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And then at number 32, your Super Bowl champions at the time, the Green Bay Packers, drafted Derek Sherrod, a tackle, and yeah, pretty shit player. Similar to the Bears pick, he just kind of fizzled out of the league fairly quickly. So yeah, pretty underwhelming pick right there for the Packers. And what's funny is their second round pick ended up being much better, which was Randall Cobb. So just funny right there. I will talk about notable picks outside of the first round just to wrap up the video. At pick 35 overall, the Cincinnati Bengals selected Andy Dalton at quarterback. Kind of average, just an average quarterback, but he had a pretty damn good season in 2015. Let's not forget that, folks. Let's see right here. And then at pick 37, the Cleveland Browns selected Jabal Sheard. Ended up having a good career later on. I think he played with the Patriots. He then ended up signing with the Colts. He's been pretty good for both of those teams, not so much in Cleveland. At pick 43 overall, the Minnesota Vikings went with Kyle Rudolph at tight end. Really started heating up recently. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Kyle Rudolph. I think he's just an overrated tight end, but this year he's been pretty good. Can't take that away from him. At pick 55, the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Rodney Hudson. Now, he's with the Oakland Raiders, but he's been one of the better centers in football for his entire career, basically. And good for him. You know, he's still playing at a high level to this day. Let's see, at pick 63 overall, you got Marcus Gilchrist, the tackle, right tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers for all these years. Now he's on the Arizona Cardinals, and he's been pretty solid for the Cardinals. Nothing too crazy. Definitely not the athlete he used to be, but was really good for the Pittsburgh Steelers there for the longest. We talked about Randall Cobb at 64 to the Packers already. Now we get to pick 70 overall. Justin Houston from Georgia to the Kansas City Chiefs. Just crazy stuff right there. He's with the Colts now, but he's been a pretty damn good pass rusher his entire career. He was pretty close to breaking Michael Strahan's sack record in a season. I think he came like one shy, I don't know. At pick 77 overall, the Tennessee Titans went with defensive lineman Jarrell Casey. He's been an underappreciated lineman too. But, I mean, he does get some sort of recognition. I mean, he makes the Pro Bowl and stuff. But Jarrell Casey's been very good for a long time, basically all of his career. Good to see that he's still playing at a high level, even to this day. And then we get to the fourth round right here. At 99 overall, the Seattle Seahawks draft KJ Wright. A nice little pickup right here. Wait, did Seattle draft KJ Wright? Wasn't he on the... Yeah, I guess Seattle did draft KJ Wright. I could have sworn he was on the Raiders for a little bit, and then I guess he returned to Seattle. But a heck of a pick right there. I mean, KJ Wright's been a pretty solid player for most of his career. Definitely great value out of the fourth round for the Seattle Seahawks. Just another one of those mid-round picks that ended up working out. Being, you know, they're pretty good at that. Let's see right here. Any more notable picks? Anthony Sherman. Is this the fullback Anthony Sherman, or is this a totally different player? Oh yeah, it is Anthony Sherman. Yeah, from UConn, representing my home state. But yeah, a heck of a player right there. Let's see here. Let me scroll down. I gotta go back to the fifth round on this thing. Let's see. Buster Screen, nickel corner, drafted by the Cleveland Browns. I mean, he hasn't really been all that good of a player, but he is on the Chicago Bears these days. He had a better, probably the best year of his career. Second best year of his career. Buster Screen's been decent. Marcus Cannon at right tackle. The New England Patriots drafted him in the fifth round, and he's been a heck of a player. Kind of slipping recently, kind of slowly falling off, but... you know, a really good player. Oh, and what do you know? Richard Sherman at 154th overall goes to the Seattle Seahawks. So they get KJ Wright and Richard Sherman in the same class. Very impressive right there. Good scouting from the boys over there. In the sixth round, at 174 overall, the Miami Dolphins selected Charles Clay. Now, he had more of a career with the Buffalo Bills. He's on the Arizona Cardinals now. Not too bad, but he's been a decent tight end throughout his career. Good find in the sixth round for sure. And then, you know, Tyrod Taylor in the sixth round as well. Pretty solid for the Buffalo Bills. Didn't really have much of a career with the Ravens. Not much of a career with the Chargers. But he did have that little decent run with the Buffalo Bills when he was finally afforded the opportunity. Did play for a cup of coffee in Cleveland as well. Just a decent little career for him. Also in the sixth round, though, we got to talk about Jason Kelce, the center for the Philadelphia Eagles. What a career he has had. Arguably one of the best centers, you know, in football today, and probably within the last few years as well. And then let's see, in the seventh round, is there any notable guys? Okay, there's one, maybe two. Yeah, two. And Lawrence Guy being one of them at pick 233 overall. drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and then, you know, ended up getting on the roster of the Baltimore Ravens, and then he played for the New England Patriots. He's had a pretty productive career, actually, now to think about it. Totally forgot Lawrence Guy was drafted by the Packers. He must have not done anything for us, but good player. And then Malcolm Smith at 242nd overall to the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, he was the Super Bowl MVP that one time, and probably the worst ever Super Bowl MVP, but hey, it's something to be recognized for, be noticed for. So shout out to him for having that under his belt. I think he's played for a couple of teams since then, but you know, good for Malcolm Smith. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this recapping of the 2011 NFL Draft. I'll be happy to do a couple of more. I feel like I've done this type of video before. I can't remember what it was though, but I'll be happy to do another one. Let me know how you guys feel about this. Drop a like, show your friends, all that good stuff, and you know, I'll see you around for the next one. So until then, peace out.